This is Robert Harper with Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division. Glad to bring you the Merchandiser Minute today for Friday, February 26, 2021. And a great day here at Virginia Farm Bureau. We're thankful to and glad to celebrate the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation's 95th birthday today. And just a thank you to all the members across all the county farm bureaus. It's a pleasure and a privilege to work with you all. We're just thankful to celebrate this with you today. Farm Bureau here in Virginia, 95 years old. Let's take a look at how the futures closed out this week in Chicago. March corn up 13 cents to close at $5.55. March soybeans up 28 cents this week to close at $14.05. And your new crop wheat, July wheat, up 7 cents for the week to close at $6.50. What a nice way to end the week with round nickel numbers. We saw a lot of volatility this week in the Chicago futures, big ranges during the day's trade. Even one day this week, we had more than a 50-cent range in soybean futures in one day's trade. We've talked about that for a long time here. When we're in a bull market like this, we need to continue to expect lots of volatility as the speculators profit from price change. We also have noticed, and I've heard this from a lot of you all this week, how the futures price tends to make the highs of the day during the night session, at least 2 out of the 5 sessions. And you saw that this week where those highs are coming at night. We know this is another reason to put those wish orders in on your target prices with your merchandiser to try to be able to fill some in those night sessions. So keep that in mind. Like we spoke last week, marketing in a bull market and marketing in a bear market, they're both difficult. We just have to keep our marketing in front of us, keep it active in our minds, and be working at it every day. Let's take a look here at some of the numbers from USDA this week. We got our inspections report on Monday, and the numbers were off again this week. That's no disrespect to all those folks at the ports and on the rail yards that are loading cars and vessels that leave the United States, but we have seen a decrease in shipments or inspections since the month of January. And on that same note this week in our export sales report on Thursday, it was the lowest numbers of the marketing year that started on September 1st. Now, that doesn't catch the trade too off. We know China was on a lunar holiday part of last week. We know that this week's export report is reflecting of last week. So we're needing, in a bull market like this, we know we have to keep feeding the bull. We need information, and we're going to be looking forward to next week to hopefully seeing more daily flash sales announcements and a big export sales report. When you look at what we got done sales-wise this week, the top corn customer was Peru. I haven't seen that very often. The top bean customer this week was the Netherlands, and the top wheat purchase customer was Bangladesh. We talked last week about the weekly ethanol report, and many analysts told us to be prepared for the storm, so to speak, literally and figuratively. The weather conditions have wreaked havoc at ethanol plants trying to make production, and we saw a 27.8% drop in production. Now, I did look this up, and it is a record 1-week drop in ethanol production by 25 million bushels of grind. So we know that was weather related. We know we'll see that production come back online as the weather has improved, but amazing to see that. We also saw an outside influence this week. Crude oil hit a 17-month high at $63 a barrel. We know the refiners have done a great job since last year on matching production with demand, and we see the speculators wanting to buy crude oil futures now as they're anticipating a greater demand as lockdowns could potentially come off of people. When we take a look at some of the eye catchers this week, a tone I heard through the trade, and one analyst summed it up this way to me: now that today is obviously the last trading day for February, we go into March, that the acre fight is going to start in March between corn and beans and who's going to get the most. And he said to me, one analyst that I respect, that April is going to be the rationing market month. Can prices or will prices need to get high enough to ration demand? We'll see how that shakes out. We've seen this week some more headlines about world shipping freight rates. Those vessels that crisscross the ocean, those freight rates have gone up dramatically since the first of the year. You've seen that in increased fertilizer costs. We've seen it in how it impacts basis for corn and soybeans and wheat for exporters. So we're going to keep our eye on that story. And we did get a lot more information this week, a week after the USDA Outlook Forum, as traders have had time to decipher all that information and dig through it, that it is amazing from those numbers at the Outlook Forum to see the long-term demand that is expected to come from China, especially on U.S. corn. That's positive. We know we've still got drought in the Western Corn Belt. Keep your eye on that USDA drought map. But we did see some numbers, some modeling this week from NOAA about La Nina. We know that Western Corn Belt has been dry basically since last August. And we have seen several models this week, NOAA says, that are showing that La Nina could neutralize in late May or early June. So we'll see how that will impact our growing season when we get into the summer. Talking about weather, we got numbers early in the week. Brazil's 15% harvested on their first crop soybeans, slowest harvest pace in 10 years. They should be in the mid-30s, so we're going to watch that closely next week. And one thing I'd like to point out in the futures trade, that volatile trade this week, we saw on Wednesday, the board was up strong, but we saw new crop beans and new crop corn go up the same amount in value as the old crop bushels. A lot of talk this week about new crop beans and new crop corn being undervalued, especially as people again are reviewing that USDA Outlook Forum information. So watch for that next week. Not only flash sales announcements in the trade, but let's watch to see how the new crop contracts follow along with the old crop contracts. And remember, today, last day of February, those March contracts are going to go off the board, and we'll start talking about May futures on Monday. Tom Vilsack was confirmed this week for his second term as USDA Secretary. He's made some comments about where his focuses will lie: climate change, renewable energy, and an equitable food system. So I encourage each of us to look at that. We know the dollar was very important in this week's trade. We also saw the Dow futures hit new all-time highs. We'll watch for that next week along with South American harvest. Will money flow keep coming in next week like this week? We'll see. Give Josie and I a call if we can help you with any of your marketing. This is Robert Harper with Farm Bureau's Grain Division.